This is Lemon's Car Spotting. You post to Instagram with the hashtag Lemon's Car Spotting. We pick the hooptiest.
They are so incredibly terrible.
And which one we want to become a real Lemon's build.
It does car-like things. I've been pushing for one of those in Lemons too, and those are very affordable.
I am Eric. That is Nick. And you guys know how this works. You see your crappy car on the street, not your car, or maybe your crappy car. I don't know. Tag it with Lemon's Car Spotting. We'll talk about it here. We'll look at 10 cars and we'll pick out the hooptiest and the one we most want to see in Lemons. Nick will do the choosing thing and I will tell him when to stop.
Lemon's build, hooptiest. Here I go.
Stop.
I think I stuttered. I panicked when you said stop. Any case, that's Lemon's build. You're doing Lemon's build.
It's hard to stop that momentum. I get it.
All right, let's go. Oh, man. It's a Fairmont, I guess.
Zephyr, Fairmont, town car. I don't know.
Well, God, this one's cool. It's got the turbine alloys with the raised white letters.
Yeah.
Of course, these well-known variations of the Fox chassis.
Yep.
Therefore, all the cool Mustang stuff will bolt right on. And so, yeah, if you're thinking about running a Mustang in Lemons, please consider one of these because it's much more snazzy.
Yeah, that might be an LTD or a Marquis as I look at it. I don't know my non-Mustang or Thunderbird Fox bodies very well.
If LTD Scott, who is one of our occasional Lemons judges and extreme expert and owner of this variation of Fox body, if he's in the comments, he will tell us exactly what this is.
Yes. I would guarantee it came with a 302 as an option or possibly standard.
Right. With 146 horsepower.
That's right.
Yeah. Cool car.
Fine machine. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, baby.
Oh, man. God, it's a Buick Century.
Yeah, that's an A body. That is definitely and this is the best thing about this car is this one spotted in Panama after what appears to be a hard night out in Panama City. But this could very easily, if you took the tiki stuff out of the background, this could be Defiance, Ohio pretty easily because that's exactly what those cars look like there as well.
Right. I think that, the sort of tropical jungle atmosphere and the Midwest winter kind of ages General Motors vehicles in sort of the same way.
Yeah. This would have had either an Iron Duke probably or the 60-degree V6. Never seen those wheels on that car.
Those look like they're from a later GM vehicle of some kind.
Although you say that, they made this car until 1996. So who knows,
God, I was like almost an adult in 1996. How is that even possible?
Yeah, it was competing with, in theory, a BMW E36 at this time. So,
well, I'm sure it was more affordable.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, it's a El Camino, I believe.
Yeah, it's got the you can see it on the quarter panel there. I have no idea what era this is.
This would have been like a 64.
Oh, okay.
Because the earlier ones had the big old fins, and then the later ones were, like the late 60s A body sort of more rounded versions.
Here's a fun trick. Cover up the front half of the car with your hand. And it looks exactly like, a Malibu or an Impala or something. Yeah. And then you cover up the front half and it absolutely looks like a C10. Like it is the most literal application of car truck that could possibly have happened there.
Well, they probably sat down and said, why overthink this? We made this. we make that. We just put them together.
To their credit, that is maybe the most efficient General
Yeah.
Motors has ever been in
Yeah.
the last 70 years. So
I do like the fact too that, like, you know, being a mid-60s muscle car-ish machine, there's some collector value in these. This one is clearly being used. You know, I think that when these were new, people took care of them. About a year later, they reached this point where they're 7 different colors and have a wheelbarrow in the back.
right.
That period lasted until, you know, for at least 20, 30 years, until, you know, whatever, baby boomers started restoring them and taking them to hot August nights.
Yeah.
So I like that this era is not being overlooked in the grand scheme of 64
Yeah.
El Camino life.
Yeah, that's quality. I'm
Yep.
super into that.
Yep.
I would drive that every day.
Totally. Yeah. All right. Oh man, you got to be kidding me, man.
Wow.
What is happening and
It is-
why?
Boy, let's start at the front.
Yeah.
I think that's a 400 or a
Well,
600
yeah,
convertible. That's
actually,
a super early. Well, they're all K cars.
Yeah, let's point out, you know, in case you didn't notice the obvious, these are all K cars. And amazingly, they're all, at least the first 3 are like the 3 main different versions you could get, which is
Right,
cool.
right. Yeah. So you have the convertible, which I think is a 600 or a 400.
Right,
If you asked me to
Chrysler.
tell you the difference, I
Yep.
couldn't tell you. Nobody,
Uh-huh.
except for super weird K car people, could tell you what the difference is. An Aries, maybe,
Yeah,
or a
either-
Reliant.
Yeah, either a Reliant or Aries K.
Yeah, and then a Town and Country
Yeah, wagon.
Wagon. So yeah. Whew.
Yeah, you know, well, I mean, famously, and this is, we are not exaggerating, we're not doing this for humor, the worst Lemons car to ever race, the single, not model, but just the single particular worst Lemons car. I mean, how many cars have we seen? We've seen thousands, if not tens of thousands of
Right.
Lemons cars. The single worst one is the K car, and it was a K car wagon that got passed around from team to team and driven across the country for an entire Lemons season. And I mean, no joke, it caused people to have like mental breakdowns. And, you know, it was not, there was nothing funny about it. Like, we weren't saying like, haha, it's the worst Lemons car. Like, no, it is the worst. We don't want to see it anymore. We don't want it affecting people's health.
Yep.
It should be thrown into the sinkhole at the Corvette Museum and forgotten forever.
Right.
So with that in mind, maybe you could get all of these and make a 3-car team.
Boom. Nailed it. Yeah. I love the aftermarket wheels on the convertible.
Yeah, that's nice.
It kind of looks, boy, I don't want to say good, but it looks.
It's a head turner.
Yeah.
You know, it's a non-denominational, why you're doing it head turner.
Yeah. Boy, have you ever, man, this is old internet stuff, but did you ever see it's like one of those websites, like awkward family photos, but it was bad band photos. And like there was always the ubiquitous things were railroad tracks and nondescript brick walls, which is, this is the bad band photo.
Yeah. So if you're not going to turn this into your multi-car Lemons team, it could be your album cover for, I don't know, K-car jams. So tunes to rock out in your K-car.
Yeah, boy.
Man. Oh, man. That's an early Audi 5000, I believe.
Is it a 5,000 or a 200?
Well, they did not, in this country anyway, they did not rename the 5000 to the 200 until later in the generation after this. In Europe, it might have always been the 200. I actually don't know the answer to that.
Audi stuff is so weird, especially the really old stuff.
Yeah. You know, Audis, in this era especially, like, you know, Volkswagen is famous for having, you know, limitless weird micro variations of stuff in the air-cooled era, but then it kind of continued briefly into this sort of early water-cooled / Audi era.
Yeah.
Because there was a bunch of weird stuff going on that didn't make any sense, especially to the American buying public.
Right.
Could you get this generation in 4-wheel drive? I mean, this was a big, expensive, luxurious, powerful for the time-ish car that didn't work at all.
Yeah. But what this got to be like an 81?
Yeah, something like
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The weird headlight beams, that's bizarre.
I think that's got to be a US market thing. You'd have to
Yeah.
imagine that they had the flush ones in Europe.
Yeah, the whole front end treatment is very Malaise era with the gigantic bumper.
I mean, I don't think there's a cult following for this generation. There is for the one that followed it, especially the 5-cylinder turbo versions. And much like German cars of that time and even of this time, there were certain parts of them that were incredibly overbuilt and well made. There were parts like the interior, like the seats were amazing. Yeah. And then if you looked underneath, like, holy mackerel, like the control arms could, they could withstand a 30-foot railroad track jump with no problem. But then everything else just sort of melted down around it. The fundamental motors were usually pretty okay, but then the electronics, like the hydraulics, all the little stuff would just totally bleed you dry. And then you wind up, parked in the field next to the front end loader. So,
I've looked at how Audis do in Lemons, and it's funny. I don't think we've had very many this old, if any. Yeah. I don't pre 1984. I don't know.
Just if not out there. There's definitely a dividing line in general Audi availability, whether that was because the cars were better or there just were more of them around then. Like this, the pre 84 era, like this, whatever the 100 LS, all of that. We don't see any of them.
Yeah. What's interesting though is the era between this and the super rounded like A4, A6 era. The A4s and everything, they're way too complicated and they break the Lemons. It kills them. They cannot run. But like the 5-cylinder era, those seem to work okay after like 2 years of banging your head against it.
Yeah, if you could find a 4000 or a coupe GT, those, if you're going to get an Audi, seem to be the best bet, which is,
it's a special kind of person who wants an Audi for Lemons, I gotta say.
Yeah. Well, the most successful Audi in Lemons is the one that runs in Denver that's run by a bunch of Audi dealer technicians.
And there's another one on the East Coast. It's a Coupe Quattro, and the internet imploded about that car.
$500 my ass.
Yeah. Also, Audi techs who blow the thing up more often than it finishes. So,
right.
But this car right here, this car is an IOE contender, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. We've never seen one. We say it every week. There's always one car in here that we've never seen in Lemons. So you can be the first. All right. Now here's a car we have seen in Lemons, although I would argue not enough.
Yeah. Whoa. I love that the Brat is supposed to be an off-road machine and they put 175 section width tires on it.
Although, it's such a small and light vehicle and maybe that doesn't matter. It becomes more like a four-wheel ATV at that point. And then
I guess that's the idea. Yeah.
It was probably designed more for just fire road as opposed to extreme rock crawling. This one, of course, has the camper shell, which clearly was made for the Brat, which means there was a company that was like, oh, man, we got to make a camper shell for that. There's a market. So, I like that, this is an earlier one with the round headlights, which is a jaunty look, I think.
Yeah, this one's lived. It's
lived. If you were to bring this to Lemons, which surely you could, I'm sure the budget wouldn't be a problem. Even if you went over, the judges would not bust your balls about it. We'd only have one requirement, which is obvious, which is to keep the camper shell in place.
100%.
Yeah. All right. Oh God, Uncle Buck. Is that what this is? It's like an LTD or something?
Yeah, it's an LTD, maybe. Ford also had a car of this era called the Elite that maybe, it was
man.
maybe 1 or 2 years. This might be one of those, but it's probably an LTD. Looks like it has literally hit everything it has ever seen.
See, I mean, this is the kind of car that, like, literally, like, if you were making a movie and you needed a car for Uncle Buck, you would like try to replicate this.
Yeah.
And this car has just reached that point organically, which is really amazing. Like, yeah, it's crumpled in every way. The front end is just cattywampus enough to give the face sort of that I'm drunk and have fallen down some stairs look. It's got the crooked license plate, which of course appears to be an Illinois license plate, which is very appropriate. And yet it's still running in the 21st century. Like, it's to accomplish all of that, I think is more difficult than, like, anybody can go out, get a classic car, restore it, and drive it around. Like, to naturally weather a car in this way and have it not just totally stop running by the side of the road, I think is really difficult.
Yeah. I got a few things to add. There's famously around Chicago, which is where this was spotted, which, before we can get to that, driving this car in the city of Chicago is a chore, and I appreciate anybody who does that. But also around Chicago, there is the famous Cutlass. It's like an 80s Cutlass Supreme that is, it is Swiss cheesed, it is see-through. The dude has been driving it in that state for at least 20 years. It is like the sister car to this thing. Spectacular. But
this is very good.
What I love about this car so much is that, like, there are random pieces of trim that are still intact, like on the side and the opera window, and it looks like the Landau is still there in kind of in good shape. But then all of the sheet metal around where the fender flares are like jagged and would slice your hand off if you ever had to change a tire on this thing.
God, and just looking at the picture, I can hear it running. It's got a little exhaust leak. It's got a little lifter tick.
Yeah.
And man,
amazing. Yeah.
That's
well done, Fritz Armstrong.
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right.
And Fritz is back.
Yeah, and with another very Illinois appropriate car, especially so since you are from Illinois and you owned one of these.
That's right. Yeah, I had an 85. This is a much later one, kind of the end of the production run. But mine had, if not identical, similar fan wheels like that, with the impossibly large sidewalls on them because the suspension was terrible. So
now we've seen maybe 5 Tempo / Topazes and Lemons?
3 that I know of, and they all have won Index of Affluence.
Yeah, I was gonna say there haven't been that many, but they've all won the grand prize.
Yeah.
So
and there's some bias in this, in the fact that I had to drive one of these, so I know how really bad they are.
I mean, you could call it bias. You could also call it qualification. You're like, okay, I know what these guys are going through. So I do like how the styling language of that era of Mercury to separate it from the Ford siblings was unibrow.
Yeah. The lighted unibrow. Well, I don't even know. Was it lighted? It had like a glow.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Was it? I don't know. Tell us in the comments if the unibrow lights up. All right. Oh, wow. It's an axiom. Now, we have talked a lot about General Motors and General Motors adjacent SUVs and how there are a million of them. Nobody knows that, like, the marketing and market positioning, where this fits into the whole scheme. None of it is memorable. None of the names are memorable. There's way too many of them. Everybody turns around, as they should, and go buy a Honda Pilot. Not necessarily because it's a better car, but because it's a car that they understand.
Right.
Like, I understand that this is an SUV of this size, and and it has one name, and that's what I'm going to go get. Now, General Motors, of course, was the opposite. The Axiom is maybe it's on the short list of the weirdest ones in that whole scheme, because
Yeah.
I think it's unique. I think that it is not shared. Like, it wasn't like, oh yeah, it's a rebadged Trailblazer or anything like that. I think that it was just its own deal and they made it for no reason.
That's a great question. And I'm not going to do either of us the service of actually looking it up. Let us know in the comments, because I know nothing about these. I've seen two of them in like the last 5 years. One was at a gas station in Indiana, and then the other was at a junkyard, and I was looking at it and I didn't recognize anything under the hood at all. But maybe it's just a weird, intake or something. I don't know. It's bizarre, which means it's perfect for lemons. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, as you guys know, we've got a 4,200 pound weight cap, but I bet you could get this under that if once you've got the interior out of it and all that. I bet you this would meet our weight requirements. And once again, you could be the first one in lemons.
Yeah.
I like how written in the abandoned dust on the windshield, it says, "I want to buy your car." Although, is it possible that it says, "I want to buy your can"? And at some point there was like a can of Coke on the windshield, and it has since been sold. And the guy has no interest in the car.
I mean, I've heard of people talking about shitty cars as crap cans, so I guess that.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell us everything you know about the Isuzu Axiom down in the comments. I will say it's not a bad looking car, by mid-size sort of generic SUV standards.
2000s SUV, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some kind of nice crisp lines, for whatever that's worth. Not much.
Again, this brings up the time-old Lemon's car spotting question applicable to Suzuki. Where would you have bought one of these? Were there Isuzu dealerships in the 2000s?
God, it's even more inexplicable than Suzuki, because not that this happened, but you could envision a situation where, Suzuki makes motorcycles that are accepted as normal vehicles, unlike the cars. Maybe in the back of the Suzuki motorcycle dealership, there was a car section. I don't think that actually happened, but it's plausible. Yeah. That's not even a possibility for Isuzu.
No, maybe a heavy truck dealership or something.
I guess, maybe. Yeah, you go to the NPR box truck dealer and you're like, I'm going to get an Axiom while I'm here.
Just put me down for an Axiom.
All right. And final car. Oh, yes. It is a Dodge Ram 50, aka Mitsubishi Mighty Max.
Yeah, boy. This is it's the pre-Dakota, right? They needed a light truck.
Yeah.
In classic Chrysler fashion, they had no ability to produce that.
Right.
So they just paid Mitsubishi to do it, which they were doing a lot at the time. So
yeah. Well, and I think that was, whether it was a result of or just concurrent with the success of the Toyota Hilux truck, that every company decided, we need a little small truck. And much like all things Mitsubishi, it was much worse than the Toyota option. So,
although we've talked about this, that Mitsubishi's pickup trucks everywhere else in the world is the number 2 option.
It's true. Yeah. They seem to work fine everywhere else.
Maybe they just make really good diesel engines that never got sold here.
Maybe that's it.
It's a fine machine for Lemon's duty, by the way.
Indeed. Yeah. Nothing says performance like peak horsepower of 40 delivered at 8 RPM.
And RPM.
Yeah. All right. That brings us to the awards. I've got the hooptiest for this week.
You got your work cut out for you.
This would be the obvious choice, and I wouldn't fault myself for going this route. Yeah. But once I saw this other machine, it stuck in my heart, and I can't get it out of my thinking for hooptiest, and it's this Audi 5000 for a couple of reasons. One, we've never seen one in Lemons. 2, it's been abandoned for a while.
Yeah.
3, it was probably incredibly expensive and bought by like, a doctor when it was new. It immediately broke down, and then now it's randomly sitting. I mean, this yard is clearly like a working yard for something, productive. And
Right.
somehow this car wound up there. Nobody knows what to do with it. It'll sit there forever unless somebody comes to get it, either for a Lemons race or Lemons rally. So there's nothing more hoopty than something that is just existing in the world, and that's it.
Yeah, 100%. That is, and I don't know if you have it queued up, if you have the Daily Double music queued up. There it is. Yeah, totally. We need this car in Lemons. We need an old Audi like this. 100%.
Yeah.
If not one of these, an old 100, if you could find one.
Oh boy, if you could find one.
Whatever.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, you would be facing some challenges by bringing this car to a Lemons race, but we've never seen one. It would be spectacular. You can swap in a different motor if you have to. We're not going to go too hard on you in the BS inspection if you bring one of these.
And you know what? To that end, we have kind of a, I don't know if I would call it a blanket, no BS laps, but I know that the Audi V8s are super easy to find, the 4.2 liters.
That's right.
Because they total a car out when they need an oil change at some point. Or a timing chain. So you could put one of those in one of these and have a car that goes way faster than its brakes or suspension, having the ability to operate, and therefore have a great Lemons car.
Yeah. Can't argue with that. Well, keep those great Lemons car spotting posts coming on Instagram. We'll find them, we'll review them, and then it's up to you, once we name our Lemons car build of the week, to think about going out and building one, because that's where the real fun happens.
There it is. That one.
Yeah, build that.
Yeah. All right.
Oh God, these things are also a lot bigger than you realize.
Yeah, they are.
The size of a Crown Vic of the time.
It is as big as the tanks of Mercedes, and every bit as heavy.